Hello, Professor Helmling here again. Now, as you can see from the syllabus for this course, you are required to compose all of your assignments in Google Docs. Now, you will still be uploading your final work to Blackboard. That's where I'll give you your grade and everything, but I'm asking you to actually do the writing through Google Docs. Now, in case you don't know, Google, being a giant monolithic tech company, intent on controlling every aspect of our lives, has created a suite of tools where you can go online from any computer or even your phone and create documents in the cloud, edit them there, and do everything that, say, Microsoft Word or Office can do, but online through Google. And we call those kind of collectively Google Docs. And as you're going to see as we get into this, there's a couple of reasons that I want you using this particular tool for this class. But we'll talk about those as we get into it. But I wanted to start with kind of a primer and an introduction for those of you who maybe have never used Google Docs before. Now, if you have, and you are familiar with Google Docs, some of this will be very elementary. But bear with me because, as I said, I want to discuss why it is that I'm going to ask you to use Google Docs for your compositions. So these days, most people have a Google ID of some sort. For example, if you're one of my students in Socorro ISD, you can actually log into Google with your SISD credentials. But if you don't already, you will need to create a Google ID to use these tools. But they are free and easy, and you also get a Gmail in the process. So maybe some of you, it's time to go and create a Gmail, maybe a professional sounding email for your resumes and things like that. So there's a good opportunity. But you do need to create one of those. And then once you have, you need to go to Google and log in by clicking up here, where if you don't already have an ID, it's going to say sign in. Okay? So once you've done that, what we're going to do to find your Google files is go to Google Drive. Now, Google's apps are all here on this little button that I call the waffle. And you can see they have all sorts of different tools here. And like I said, we're going to go to Drive. Now, if you scroll down, you'll see this is where you can actually create documents. These are like Word documents, sheets are like spreadsheets, slides are like PowerPoints, etc., etc. But we're not going to go that way because for this class, I'm not asking you to create your own Google Docs. I'm going to collect your ID for Google, your email, just the email, not your password, obviously. And with that email, I'm going to share files with you. And so the Google Docs that you will use for this class are the ones I will provide to you. So once again, you do not create your documents for your assignments. I will create them and share them with you. So you don't need to go here to create them from scratch. You'll just need to go to Drive to find them. And Drive is how you can manage all of your Google files in one easy place. So I'm going to click on that now. And with this example here, I'm going to show you that I've already shared a file with this Google account. I'll show you what it looks like. Now, this is Drive. Over here you have different shortcuts to different areas, and then here you have kind of a profile, different Google files that you've created. If this is a brand new Google account, then you won't see very much here yet. But once I've run the script on my end to create files for you, you will see one that says Richard Helmling shared a file with you. And as you can see, the one that we're going to look at is very generic, and it says writing assignment, and it's right here under the recent files for this account because I just created it. Now, if at any point you log into Drive and you don't see it right there under quick access, that's okay. Maybe you would work with Google Files more, and it's going to get buried under some of your other work or something like that. So what you'll want to do is just look under Shared with Me, and that'll kind of narrow it down, and you should see the file here. So once you use Drive to find the file, then you just double-click to open it up. As you can see, it opens up in a new tab. And I'll create a file like this for every major assignment anytime that I want to be able to see your work on your file before you upload it into Blackboard. Okay, so this file is a generic file format that I use as a template. As you can see, there's some things already in this document, and that's because this document is already set up with what's called MLA formatting. Now, our field guide has a number of different sections about academic writing. And one of the things that they will talk about in there is how to make sure that you are using an established academic format for your work. So when the field guide says that academic writing has clearly and carefully documented sources, there are particular ways to document your sources. And the one that we'll be using in this class is called MLA, for Modern Language Association. The other big one that you may have already run across in your studies, especially if you've been to like a STEM academy or something like that, the other one is called APA, from the American Psychological Association. And MLA is used a lot in English and history classes. APA is used a lot in the sciences. Now, these formats are not terribly different. They just have some different little requirements for the way you document sources in your writing and in your end citations and things like that. So when we get to research, we will go into that in more detail and talk about that a little bit more. But this document that I've dropped here already has the page formatting from the MLA handbook. So for example, MLA style requires that you have 1-inch margins on all sides, and this document has already been set up with 1-inch margins. MLA style requires you to put a heading at the top of your first page, and this is the format. You will put your name, so I'm going to go ahead and edit this as we go, and this is what you'll do in your documents. You'll see this template first, and then you can modify it. So I'm just going to say that this student's name is Billy McBillerston. All right. And then we've got Helmling. If you want to, kiss up, you can change that to Professor Helmling. That's always nice. And then the class is going to be English 1301, or maybe you're watching this from my English 1302, but right in there. And the date, this is where a lot of students make a mistake with MLA format, is MLA has this very particular and frankly kind of bizarre date format that you have to follow in all of your MLA documents. So what you do is you put the day, then the month spelled out, then space, no commas anywhere in MLA dates, and then the year. So that's what an MLA heading will look like. And then below that you have the rest of the basic formatting. Titles in MLA documents are not bold-faced, they're not any bigger, they stay 12-point font, which all MLAs should be in 12-point font. And I've set it here to Times New Roman. You'll find a lot of professors ask you for Times New Roman. Technically, MLA does not require that specific font. It just requires a clear font where bolds and italics are clearly different. But a lot of professors ask for Times New Roman, so I set the document up for that. And so in the title, we're just going to call it Paper on Papers? I don't know, doesn't matter. And now I've got the formatting for the title right, and then this is where I'll actually start writing. Notice that the first paragraph is already indented, so you just start typing, and this is where your actual paper will go. And I'm going to write something silly like, I am going to write something silly. Boom. So there's my first bit of composition here. And presumably I'm going to edit this and make it sound a lot smarter later. So you just keep typing there, tab your new paragraphs to indent them. By the way, do tab them. I'm always amazed how many students, when they start a new paragraph like this, instead of tabbing, they hit space a bunch of times. That's not right. You want to tab your paragraphs so they're all even. Okay, now that's the first page. On the second and on pages of any MLA document, there is a header. So up here we had the heading, that's only on the first page, but at the top of every other page is the header. Now technically the header is acceptable on the first page if you don't know how to do that. I've done it for you. But if you're starting another document later and you can't figure out how to keep the header off the first page, it's okay to leave it. But see how I've clicked in here to the header? And then if I go up here to look at the first page, see this little checkbox that says different first page. That hides it for me on the first page. And you can see I just missed a call from my wife. But anyway, let's keep working here. So I believe my fake student name was Billerston. And there you go. This is what the header should look like. Instead of the last, where it says last name in my template, I've typed in my fake student's last name. There's a space and then an automated page number. Now I set that up by going to Insert, Page Numbers, and selecting the appropriate looking page number and inserting it. You can't just type the number 2 and expect the word processor to know that you mean it to change for 3 and 4 and 5. You have to tell it that's an automatic page number. So if you ever accidentally delete this from the template, you're going to have to fix it by going Insert, Page Number, etc. But if you don't delete the 2, then it's going to change as we get to pages 3, 4, 5, and up. Okay? So that is the MLA header, and that's standard for any MLA document. Now this next item that's stuck on page 2 after a page break is the works cited page. And again, one of the requirements of academic writing is that you document your sources. And so we're going to talk when we get to research about citations and what they should look like in your writing when you use information in the body of your writing, and what they should look like at the end, because there's 2 parts of the system that work together. So we will talk about that when we get to research, but the document that I give you comes ready with a template for the MLA citation. Now the main thing that this is here for is to give you what's called a hanging indent. See how the first line of this citation is flush with the margin, but then all the other lines are indented. That's what's called a hanging indent. It's the opposite of a standard paragraph where the first line is indented and everything else is flush with the margin. So mainly that's what this is here for. When you are working on a paper and you need more citations, you just copy and paste this little thing here so that you keep that hanging indent on all subsequent citations. Now, it does have the template, and this comes, by the way, from the OWL at Purdue. That's the online writing lab at Purdue. Great resource for MLA or APA or any citation format, because there are a few others like Chicago. And if you go there, they give you, this is the basic template for any MLA citation. But it's a little confusing because there's a lot here. And what's important is that you'll very rarely need all of these different parts in any one source. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen a source with every single one of these parts. And so as you're doing a citation for MLA, any part that doesn't apply, you just leave off. And, if there's no publisher for a particular item, you just leave the publisher blank. And again, if you've never worked with a citation format, this may seem very unclear at this point, but when we get to research, we will work on that and it will make a little bit more sense. And as we look at some sample student papers, it will make more sense as well. So don't worry too much about it, but I just want to show you what this means on the template. Now, for any essays that we're doing together that don't require a citation, then you can just delete the works cited page. For example, your memoir, the very first major essay we're going to do for the class for 1301, is very unlikely to need a citation. You're probably not going to draw any sources into your story about your own experience in a memoir. Now, if you're watching this video for English 1302, everything we do in 1302 will have a citation, but you've already then been through this 1301, and you know that you need your citations. So this will all come built into the document that I'm going to drop to you. And like I said, you will, once it's all done, be uploading this to Blackboard. And the way you do that is, once you're all done and ready to show it to me, you will go File, Download, Microsoft Word, and that is the file version that you will then upload into Blackboard for your final grade. Now, as I said, this document that we're looking at is actually one that I've shared with you. So I have complete access to it as well. So I can look in here at your work in progress, make suggestions via the comment feature. See, there's a little box here that I click open, and I can add comments on the side. Of course, this is going to appear as the student. You can probably figure out her relationship to me. And then when I do it, it will show up as a comment from me. And so anytime you get comments like that on your work in progress, I'm going to give you pointers to try to help you out there. So that's one reason that I want you writing your work in Google Docs, so that I can kind of help guide you through the writing process and, steer you away from any mistakes. The other thing that's great about this is that everything you do in Google Docs is backed up as you go. So there's no way to lose your work unless Google falls into the Pacific Ocean, in which case I think we have bigger things to worry about than just one paper in your class. So everything's backed up, but not just at one point. If I go up here to this little link right here, it's going to open a version history. And this will show me every change I've made in this document. If I click this to expand, I can see individually these are all the little edits as we've gone through. So I can go back, and anything that say I deleted, I can go and copy and put back into the document, or I can just go straight and restore that version completely. Let's say that I'm writing my paper and I try something completely new for my conclusion. I take off my old conclusion, I write a whole new conclusion, and then I go and I read it and I'm like, this conclusion is terrible. I want my old conclusion back. Boom, easy to do in Google Docs. So the main reason that I like this as a platform for doing your writing is because it makes the writing process so transparent for both of us. We can go in and see how you are crafting and working on your essay. And this is also helpful for, sorry to say, plagiarism as well. Basically, you really don't want to try to get away with plagiarism in this class, because I'm going to have a complete record of what you write, and then when you do upload it to Blackboard, it's going to go through a plagiarism database as well to match it against other web sources, other students' papers, and things like that. So make sure all of your work for this class is your work, and we will talk more about plagiarism when we get into research as well, making sure that we credit our sources correctly and everything like that. But again, the main thing isn't so much the security as that it makes this writing process visible for us here. And so we can do a lot of interesting things with revising and editing. And so you're going to be choosing sections of your paper to try to revise and edit in workshops after you do your first draft here. And if you do, like in the example I gave a couple of seconds ago, write something that you try a different version of it and you really don't like it, you can always go back and you can take pieces from previous versions and bring them forward. Really, because of the transparency here with this version history, there's just so much we can do with the writing process. Let me get out of there. I just clicked that arrow. Like, once again, all of that, seeing every version of your essay is just a click away right here, takes you to the version history. Okay, so that's a very quick run through on Google Docs. But if you do have any questions about using it, there are plenty of tutorials online, or you can shoot me an email with questions. One thing that a lot of students who are new to it are really shaky about, they're like, oh, how do I save? How do I save? It saves automatically, continuously, and anytime that you see this updated, then you're good to go to just close it and poof, it is saved. So I didn't click anything to save, and as you see, if I go back into the file, all those changes we made with my silly name and everything like that are going to be right there for us. So that's how Google Docs works. It's always in the cloud. You can get to it at any point. There are apps you can get on your phone to both view this in Google Drive and to edit it in Google Docs. So if you'd like to download those can be very handy as well. But you can get to it from any web browser at any time. Another nice feature of Google Drive and Google Docs. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to shoot me a question. And I will be dropping you your first Google Docs very early in the class. And if you're watching this video before that happens, then just wait for my directions. And if it's already there, then go into Google Drive, check it out, format the document, make sure that your name is in the heading and the header and that you don't delete the page number and all of that. And get to your very first writing assignment. So that's about it. Thanks very much, everyone. Have a great day.